It's a Thursday, we throw back today, and every Thursday for us to remind you that we are taking a step back in time. We play you some of the best music from the early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s, and sometimes we even go back to the 80s and play you the bangers from back then. So welcome to Good Morning Uganda, where we take you back on Thursday, but also bring you back here with current affairs. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Today is the 13th of February 2025. It is the eve of Valentine's Day, where lovers celebrate their loved ones on the 14th of February and this will be tomorrow, Friday. But also today is World Radio Day. We are celebrating over 71 years of radio in Uganda. Now, working for Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, it also means that we are working for a station that gave us one of our first radio stations in the country. So sincerely speaking, today is a big day. Now, for fellow journalists that work with radio stations, today is your day. We celebrate you because you reach masses, sometimes even in places where TV cannot reach. So the work that you do, the information, the entertainment, we celebrate you. And looking at Radio Day, I celebrate some of the radio personalities I've known in my time. I celebrate the likes of Christine Mawadri, Irene Ocho, Elvis, and some of our fallen angels like Molindwa Muwonge. We have had so much. DJ Ronnie, these men walked so that we could run in this field of radio and also TV. So today, for every journalist, for every radio presenter, for every DJ, we celebrate you because today is World Radio Day. Now, still looking back at history, on this day in 1979, during the government of Idi Amin Dada, he referred the conflict with invading Tanzanian forces to the United Nations Security Council, and he was seeking international intervention because the Ugandan forces joining with Tanzania were invading Uganda, and shortly after his government was overthrown. Well, my name is Olive Monica Najuma. Welcome aboard. This is Good Morning Uganda. I'm right with Jerome Paul Sonko, and in Studio B, Robert Chirabo Nyonyintano. Good morning, Jerome.
Good morning, Olive, and good morning to you, our dear viewer. Thank you very much for always waking up with us. Thursday, it is 13th of February, and like Olive has mentioned, World Radio Day. And well, of course, when you look back at the various presenters we've had over the years that have rocked our airwaves over the various centuries, and let's say from the Ugandan perspective over the past decades, it is worth for us to celebrate such a day, and also to celebrate the wonderful and amazing voices that still rock our radios today. And also on the other side of things, UCE examinations, the celebrations are still ongoing, Olive, and sad news coming in from Western Uganda have revealed that a fire ravaged a female dormitory at Nyahuka, a parent secondary school in Bundibudio district. And this was happening during the time when they were celebrating the results that had been released earlier this week. So you can easily see that schools really need to also gear up for any bit of unfortunate occasions or events that may arise from enjoyments and what have you. But then also, this is also a huge alarm to schools, because we've been reporting some of these cases every year in regards to fire gutting dormitories or fire gutting school facilities. So this one is also just to just send a message home to all schools to prepare accordingly so that they never get into such circumstances, to come up with various means and measures that will ensure that they do not lose property or they don't find themselves in circumstances of any fire outbreak. So lucky enough, we are here, and lucky enough that the authorities within Bundibudio were quick to support and also further help out the school. But we pray and hope that the school is able to recover from that particular loss that they experienced.
And especially now that the school year has literally just begun. Schools reopened for the academic year 2025 just last week. Well, we do hope that they can recover from this, but adding my voice to Joram's voice, this is a time for us to be vigilant, because we cannot lose life and we cannot lose property. Hopefully we can tighten the security, but also follow some of the prescriptions that the government has given us to safeguard the dormitories and also the students. We need to ensure we have fire extinguishers. We need to have fire drills in our schools. The children need to know their assembly points in case of a fire. This information is extremely important for everyone that is within a school. Good morning, Robert. Welcome. Today, I like to welcome you, gentlemen, because, I mean, from the time I see you in the morning, a lot happens. So every morning when I see you, I am happy. So welcome. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
And how is that young lad just next to you?
I believe he's amazing.
These days, usually I used to say it's going to be a good day, but I don't know of late what is happening. However,
he said it's going to be a good year.
Okay, I hope so. Well, yesterday, something interested me. That was what happened on the floor of Parliament. We discussed the results, the Senior 4 results. But this also reached the floor of Parliament, the grading, where members of Parliament tasked Ministry of Education to go and come up with a report clarifying the confusion of Senior 4 grading system. Now, members of Parliament, some also accepted that they couldn't understand the grading system. And now they were wondering, how are the parents going to understand this better? Honorable Sewungu, on the floor of Parliament, came out and said, if even some teachers who are supposed to explain these things properly do not understand them. So the ministry, yes, he said, we launched this, we approved this curriculum. Remember, it went through Parliament. But then it is funny that they did not factor in the grading system, how it's going to be. So the members of Parliament felt that Ministry of Education should have done enough to sensitize the public about the grading system and what it's going to look like. So I found it very interesting that members of Parliament, also some could not, the math wasn't mathing up very well. And yet they said these parents have paid school fees. We have smart children who will tell their parents that Daddy E is A, you know, and all that. So we wait to see how the ministry is going to come up with that report on the floor of Parliament. Are they going to lecture members of Parliament? How is it going to be done? But it's something that was raised yesterday. And Olive, in the spirit of reducing HIV infections, today is also World Condom Day. Now, we call upon the young men and women of this country that please, if you can't abstain, please use a condom, use it properly, know how to use it properly, because it's not all out, and use it in the right type. Yes, so that we reduce HIV infections. We've talked about abstinence, but it seems abstinence is not peaking that much. So if people are not abstaining, let's look at how they can have safe action and we have their lives better. Most of when donor money in that direction is not coming in as it used to come in.
Well, Robert has started the day with very powerful words, and I think given the times that we are living in with all the aid cuts and all, it's very important for us to go back to the drawing board and ensure that we safeguard our lives and live responsibly. But that being said, Robert, take us through the local news.
Well, we'll begin with President Yoweri Museveni's tour in Kigezi sub-region, where President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni commissioned the Mirama Kabale 132 kV electricity substation in Rubanda district. President Museveni rallied residents to value into and venture into value addition to farm products for economic and also to facilitate industrialization of the region. This is one of the projects President Museveni launched during his visit in the Kigezi sub-region while assessing the performance of the parish development model. The launch of Mirima Kabale 132 kV transmission line and its associated substations, projects at Mamuko Kabale substation in Rubanda district commissioned by the President is a project towards boosting economic transformation and industrialization in Kigezi sub-region. Museveni reiterated on the parish development model potential to improve household incomes and cautioned saboteurs. He warned the Kigezi community against environmental indiscipline. The Minister for Energy and Mineral Development, Dr. Ruth Nankabirwa, highlighted the project's significance in enhancing power stability, supporting rural electrification, and driving socio-economic development. The minister assured the project affected persons of their compensation. The Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited commended government initiative of bringing development partners on board for infrastructural development. The project intended to facilitate electricity extension even beyond borders. The project, which traverses through Ntungamo, Ruchiga, Kabale and Rubanda districts, was financed by the Islamic Development Bank with a loan of $83.75 million under the oversight of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development and Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited as the implementing agency.
Well, in the same regard, the President has kicked off his Kigezi Sub-Region Wealth Creation Tour. That was on Wednesday, 12th February 2025 from Chisoro District, where he visited Nsekanabo Angelo, a distinguished farmer venturing in dairy keeping and cross-devotional agriculture. In Kisoro District, the President received by the Deputy Speaker to Parliament, Right Honorable Thomas Tayebwa, as he called for mindset change for Kigezi towards wealth creation at Ruhare village in Bufumbira South constituency in Chisoro District. The name Sekanabo Angelo has become a hot cake due to his aggressiveness towards the gospel of wealth creation. Now, Sekanabo, who way back in 2016 received one dairy cow under the Operation Wealth Creation Initiative, became an established dairy farmer not only in his homestead but across Chisoro District. In fact, yesterday, Sekanabo bragged about his one dairy cow, which saw him host the President as he kicked off the Kigezi Wealth Creation visit. To accompany the President in Chisoro District, the Deputy Speaker to Parliament was among those, inclusive of which the Minister of ICT and National Guidance. Now, the President notes that taking Sekanabo and other success stories is also creating the disbelief that wealth creation is for the already established and elites. And that kind of message belongs to the past. For the Deputy Speaker to Parliament, Thomas Tayebwa committed that that Parliament will support all the government wealth creation projects. Now, present in Chisoro was Minister Dr. Chris Bariomosi, Victoria Usoke, and State House Comptroller Jen Bareche, and members of Parliament, among others. Along the major route of Kabale to Rubanda and Chisoro, hundreds lined up in major centers to wave, cheer, and receive the President as he kicked off his three-day visit in the Greater Kigezi sub-region.
Now, on matters of debt, security agencies attribute the accumulation of unpaid water bills to under-budgeting. Uganda People's Defense Forces, UPDF, Uganda Police Force, and Uganda Prison Service are among the MDAs with high cost of unpaid water bills as petitioned by National Water and Sewerage Corporation. These agencies have appeared before a joint committee of Parliament, including Natural Resources and Finance, to respond to the queries aligned in the petition. About 97 billion shillings remain accumulated arrears within the government MDAs. Parliament is investigating a petition by the National Water and Sewerage Corporation where 97 billion unpaid water bills from different ministries, agencies and departments remains a nightmare. The worrying bit is that National Water and Sewerage Corporation is to write off up to 85.6 billion of the 97 billion in the running financial year. The UPDF has an outstanding debt of 21.6 billion shillings resulting from the new buildings and units. An increase in the water tariff from 3,058 also impacted the debt. In their submission, the Uganda People's Force decried arrears totaling to 112 billion shillings, where out of this 24 billion is unpaid water bills, yet 3.9 billion is allocated as provisions to settle arrears. The entities are accusing Ministry of Finance of not adhering to their call for more funding. Some MPs pinned the entities for lack of innovative strategies and alternatives to arrest the menace. These are advocating for enhancement of the allocated budget in order to fix arrears.
And then lastly, from local news, Uganda National Examinations Board has dismissed grading comparisons being made with the old curriculum. The Principal Public Relations Officer of UNEB, Jennifer Kalule, revealed that the new curriculum grades of A, B, C, D, and E are a complete departure from the old curriculum grades, which had D1s, D2s, credits, pass and fail. Divisions and grades on top of that. Upon the release of the Senior 4 results of the competence-based curriculum, many people failed to interpret the new UNEB grading scores of A, B, C, D, E. Some were even quick to say an A means D1, B stands for D2, C means credit 3, 4, and 5, and 6, and so on. However, Jennifer Kalule, the Principal Public Relations Officer for UNEB, revealed that the new grading system is a complete departure from the old grading system, reporting of grade or division 1, 2, 3, and more. Now, according to UNEB, an A score stands for exceptional achievement level, and it's the highest. A candidate who scores this means they demonstrated an extraordinary level of competence in application of knowledge and skills, and a B score means the candidate is outstanding, demonstrated a high level of competence in applying the knowledge and skills. Then C is a satisfactory achievement. A learner will be demonstrated adequate level of competence. D stands for basic, which will show that the learner demonstrated a minimum level of competence. While for E, it's an elementary score. It demonstrates below the basic level of competence. Now, under the new grading, result 1 means a learner got at least a D in one subject. Result 2, a learner did not sit for some compulsory subjects, or did not sit for a minimum of 8 subjects, or has no project work scores. Now, result 3 means that the candidate got 3 E's in got E's rather in all subjects, which is equivalent to fail because they cannot get a certificate, therefore can repeat or branch. In a summary, candidates with result 2 and result 3 do not qualify for a certificate.
Now moving on, going right across from Africa, U.S. President Donald Trump has said he had a lengthy and highly productive phone call with Vladimir Putin on Wednesday, in which the leaders agreed to begin negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. In a post on his Truth Social platform, Trump said he and the Russian president had, quote-unquote, agreed to have our respective teams start negotiations immediately and invited each other to visit their respective capitals. Later, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he had spoken with Trump about a lasting reliance peace. The calls with the warning sides came as both Trump and his defense secretary said it was unlikely Ukraine would join NATO, which will come as a bitter disappointment to Kyiv. Zelensky said he would meet Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio during a defense summit on Ukraine in Munich on Friday. Trump wrote on social media, and I quote, "It is time to stop this ridiculous war where there has been massive and totally unnecessary death and destruction. God bless the people of Russia and Ukraine," end quote. He did not set a date for a face-to-face meeting with Putin, but later told reporters at the White House, "We will meet in Saudi Arabia." Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Putin supported Trump's idea that the time had come to work together. The phone call between Putin and Trump lasted nearly an hour and a half, during which the Russian president extended an invitation to visit Moscow, Peskov said. Moving on, the former chief executive of Google is worried artificial intelligence could be used by terrorists or rogue states to harm innocent people. Eric Schmidt told the BBC, "The real fears that I have are not the ones that most people talk about, AI. I talk about extreme risk." The tech billionaire, who held senior posts at Google from 2001 to 2017, told the Today program North Korea or Iran or even Russia could adopt and misuse the technology to create biological weapons. He called for government oversight on private tech companies which are developing AI models, but warned overregulation could also stifle innovation. Mr. Schmidt agreed with the U.S. export controls on powerful microchips which power the most advanced AI systems. Before he left office, former U.S. President Joe Biden restricted the export of microchips to all but 18 countries in order to slow adversaries' progress on AI research. The decision could still be reversed by Donald Trump. Think about North Korea or Iran or even Russia, who have some evil goal, Mr. Schmidt said. This technology is fast enough for them to adopt that they could misuse it and do real harm, he told Today presenter Amol Rajan. He added AI systems in the wrong hands could be used to develop weapons to create a bad biological attack from some evil person. And lastly, in our international news, former Democratic Republic of Congo Captain Yusuf Mulumbu is calling on Paris Saint-Germain to reconsider its partnership with Visit Rwanda as he attempts to raise awareness of the conflict and humanitarian crisis in his homeland, which has left people living in fear. M23 rebels, reportedly backed by Rwanda, have seized the vital frontier city of Goma and vast tracts of land in the mineral-rich east of Democratic Republic of Congo, while latest figures from the United Nations suggest approximately 700,000 people have been forced from their homes just this year. Rwanda has been accused by a group of UN experts of not only backing the M23 but also of materially benefiting from the mineral wealth that is being smuggled into the country. Rwanda has denied this and said that it is only interested in shoring up its border. The battle for control of Goma cost some 3,000 lives and led to rights violations committed by both sides, this according to a UN official. The situation is very, very hard and very painful, and all this conflict is based on finance, Mulumbu told Newsday on the BBC World Service. Well, that does it. Now let's have a look at the newspapers.
Well, how Senior 5 will be selected, this is how you can find the New Vision today. The top story is talking about how the Senior 5 selection will be conducted. And then at the front page, some other faces of the students that sat for UNEB last year. Then also over 2,500 top schools ranked countrywide again. A new power station to boost business in Kigezi. Pictorial of the president opening the power station. And then Mohozi hails Uganda-USA relations after meeting with the ambassador, Ambassador Pop. And then to the Daily Monitor, Senior 5 selection headache, new grading. A number of head teachers do not have a definite criteria they will use to select candidates for A-level in a week's time. Now, UNEB explains that if you look at the current UACE grading, it also goes from A to E and O, and we also carry out selection using those grades. So the template, if I may say, with some modifications that we use for placement for UACE will be used for the selection into Senior 5. UNEB Executive Director Odong revealed the same. And then, will EC pull off the 3.6 million target in 7 days? The big question in today's Daily Monitor. Now, Kasaija asks the East African Development Bank to lend more to businesses. And then also, Museveni commissions Rubanda hydropower substation. That is with the Daily Monitor. Now to Kenya, the Daily Nation under siege. Wetungula, who remains Ford Kenya leader against the law, has shunned UDA merger. As members of parliament joyride to watch Raila AU vote. Then in court, Waititu and wife face long jail terms over graft. As in Matters tribute, Aga Khan IV left an indelible mark. Members of parliament interrupted their normal business to mourn the passing of His Highness the Aga Khan. And then in Matters economy, Kenyans moving to cheaper schools and houses in hard times, according to what is happening there. Now in Tanzania, lastly from our press review, way forward as EU and US shake up aid policies, the Tanzanian experts and civil society stakeholders have suggested ways of sustaining critical financing in the wake of the European Union and the US reviewing their foreign aid programs. As Tanzania is set to increase meat exports to lucrative Saudi Arabian market, then in the Business Week, Matters investment boost coffee processing for more profits. Africa has been urged. And then factors that drove insurance growth in 2024. There's a breakdown of the same as Bunch team wants review of Masalato airport funding arrangement. That does it for our press review this Thursday.
And here is a song from Aya's solo. Enjoy. We will be right back. It's a Thursday, we throw back today, and every Thursday for us to remind you that we are taking a step back in time. We play you some of the best music from the early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s, and sometimes we even go back to the 80s and play you the bangers from back then. So welcome to Good Morning Uganda, where we take you back on Thursday, but also bring you back here with current affairs. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Today is the 13th of February 2025. It is the eve of Valentine's Day, where lovers celebrate their loved ones on the 14th of February and this will be tomorrow, Friday. But also today is World Radio Day. We are celebrating over 71 years of radio in Uganda. Now, working for Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, it also means that we are working for a station that gave us one of our first radio stations in the country. So sincerely speaking, today is a big day. Now, for fellow journalists that work with radio stations, today is your day. We celebrate you because you reach masses, sometimes even in places where TV cannot reach. So the work that you do, the information, the entertainment, we celebrate you. And looking at Radio Day, I celebrate some of the radio personalities I've known in my time. I celebrate the likes of Christine Mawadri, Irene Ocho, Elvis, and some of our fallen angels like Mulindwa Muwonge. We have had so much. DJ Ronnie, these men walked so that we could run in this field of radio and also TV. So today, for every journalist, for every radio presenter, for every DJ, we celebrate you because today is World Radio Day. Now, still looking back at history, on this day in 1979, during the government of Idi Amin Dada, he referred the conflict with invading Tanzanian forces to the United Nations Security Council, and he was seeking international intervention because the Ugandan forces joining with Tanzania were invading Uganda, and shortly after his government was overthrown. Well, my name is Olive Monica Najuma. Welcome aboard. This is Good Morning Uganda. I'm right with Jerome Paul Sonko and in Studio B, Robert Chirabo Nyonyintano. Good morning, Jerome.
Good morning, Olive, and good morning to you, our dear viewer. Thank you very much for always waking up with us. Thursday, it is 13th of February, and like Oliver's mentioned, World Radio Day. And well, of course, when you look back at the various presenters we've had over the years that have rocked our airwaves over the various centuries, and let's say from the Ugandan perspective over the past decades, it is worth for us to celebrate such a day, and also to celebrate the wonderful and amazing voices that still rock our radios today. And also on the other side of things, UCE examinations, the celebrations are still ongoing, Oliver, and sad news coming in from Western Uganda have revealed that a fire ravaged a female dormitory at Nyahuka, a parent secondary school in Bundibujo district. And this was happening during the time when they were celebrating the results that had been released earlier this week. So you can easily see that schools really need to also gear up for any bit of unfortunate occasions or events that may arise from enjoyments and what have you. But then also, this is also a huge alarm to schools, because we've been reporting some of these cases every year in regards to fire gutting dormitories or fire gutting school facilities. So this one is also just to just send a message home to all schools to prepare accordingly so that they never get into such circumstances, to come up with various means and measures that will ensure that they do not lose property or they don't find themselves in circumstances of any fire outbreak. So lucky enough, we are here, and lucky enough that the authorities within Bundibujo were quick to support and also further help out the school. But we pray and hope that the school is able to recover from that particular loss that they experienced.
And especially now that the school year has literally just begun. Schools reopened for the academic year 2025 just last week. Well, we do hope that they can recover from this, but adding my voice to Joram's voice, this is a time for us to be vigilant, because we cannot lose life and we cannot lose property. Hopefully we can tighten the security, but also follow some of the prescriptions that the government has given us to safeguard the dormitories and also the students. We need to ensure we have fire extinguishers. We need to have fire drills in our schools. The children need to know their assembly points in case of a fire. This information is extremely important for everyone that is within a school. Good morning, Robert. Welcome today. I like to welcome you, gentlemen, because, I mean, from the time I see you in the morning, a lot happens. So every morning when I see you, I am happy. So welcome. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
And how is that young lad just next to you?
I believe he's amazing.
These days, usually I used to say it's going to be a good day, but I don't know of late what is happening. However,
he said it's going to be a good year.
Okay, I hope so. Well, yesterday, something interested me. That was what happened with the flow of Parliament. We discussed the results, the Senior 4 results. But this also reached the flow of Parliament, the grading, where members of Parliament tasked Ministry of Education to go and come up with a report clarifying the confusion of Senior 4 grading system. Now, members of Parliament, some also accepted that they couldn't understand the grading system. And now they were wondering, how are the parents going to understand this better? Honorable Sewungu, on the floor of Parliament, came out and said, if even some teachers who are supposed to explain these things properly do not understand them. So the ministry, yes, he said, we launched this, we approved this curriculum. Remember, it went through Parliament. But then it is funny that they did not factor in the grading system, how it's going to be. So the members of Parliament felt that Ministry of Education should have done enough to sensitize the public about the grading system and what it's going to look like. So I found it very interesting that members of Parliament, also some could not, the math wasn't mathing up very well. And yet they said, these parents have paid school fees. We have smart children who will tell their parents that Daddy E is a A, you know, and all that. So we wait to see how the ministry is going to come up with that report. on the floor of Parliament. Are they going to lecture members of Parliament? How is it going to be done? But it's something that was raised yesterday. And Olive, in the spirit of reducing HIV infections, today is also World Condom Day. Now, we call upon the young men and women of this country that please, if you can't abstain, please use a condom, use it properly, know how to use it properly, because it's not all about, and use it in the right type. Yes, so that we reduce HIV infections. We've talked about abstinence, but it seems abstinence is not peaking that much. So if people are not abstaining, let's look at how they can have safe action and we have their lives better. Most of when donor money in that direction is not coming in as it used to come in.
Well, Robert has started the day with very powerful words, and I think given the times that we are living in with all the aid cuts and all, it's very important for us to go back to the drawing board and ensure that we safeguard our lives and live responsibly. But that being said, Robert, take us through the local news.
Well, we'll begin with President Yoweri Museveni's tour in Kigezi sub-region, where President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni commissioned the Mirama Kabale 132 kV electricity substation in Rubanda district. President Museveni rallied residents to value into and venture into value addition to farm products for economic and also to facilitate industrialization of the region. This is one of the projects President Museveni launched during his visit in the Kigezi sub-region while assessing the performance of the parish development model. The launch of Mirima Kabale 132 kV transmission line and its associated substations projects at Muko Kabale substation in Rubanda district, commissioned by the President, is a project towards boosting economic transformation and industrialization in Kigezi sub-region. Museveni reiterated on the parish development model potential to improve household incomes and cautioned saboteurs. He warned the Kigezi community against environmental indiscipline. The Minister for Energy and Mineral Development, Dr. Ruth Nankabirwa, highlighted the project's significance in enhancing power stability, supporting rural electrification, and driving socio-economic development. The minister assured the project affected persons of their compensation. The Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited commended government initiative of bringing development partners on board for infrastructural development. The project intended to facilitate electricity extension even beyond borders. The project, which traverses through Ntungamo, Ruchiga, Kabale and Rubanda districts, was financed by the Islamic Development Bank with a loan of $83.75 million under the oversight of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development and Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited as the implementing agency.
Well, in the same regard, the President has kicked off his Kigezi sub-region wealth creation tour. That was on Wednesday, 12th February 2025 from Kisoro district, where he visited Nsekanabo Angelo, a distinguished farmer venturing in dairy keeping and cross-devotional agriculture. In Kisoro district, the President received by the Deputy Speaker to Parliament, Right Honorable Thomas Tayebwa, as he called for mindset change for Kigezi towards wealth creation at Ruhare village in Bufumbira South constituency in Kisoro district. The name Sekanabo Angelo has become a hot cake due to his aggressiveness towards the gospel of wealth creation. Now, Sekanabo, who way back in 2016 received one dairy cow under the Operation Wealth Creation Initiative, became an established dairy farmer not only in his homestead but across Kisoro district. In fact, yesterday, Sekanabo bragged about his one dairy cow, which saw him host the president as he kicked off the Kigezi wealth creation visit. To accompany the president in Kisoro district, the deputy speaker to parliament was among those, inclusive of which the Minister of ICT and National Guidance. Now, the president notes that taking Sekanabo and other success stories is also creating the disbelief that wealth creation is...
Heels of an incident that happened at a school in Ntungamo district. This was at Standard College Rashamire in Ntungamo districts. Now, there is footage that went viral of two teachers that were assaulting a student. According to the magistrate, she said that the accused, Aneb Mwesije, age 31, and Nabothi Twesije, aged 30, were charged with assault occasioning actual bodily harm and remanded them until March 4th, 2025. After pleading not guilty to the charges, they failed to produce sureties, so they were remanded until the 4th of March 2025. But when you see the footage, it sparked outrage among Ugandans, so much so that the Chief of Defense Forces, General Mhozi Kainerugaba, called for the arrest of these teachers, and now they are on remand. But like Robert did put it, this is a case that we've got to know about simply because it was captured by someone on video. So how many cases have gone unnoticed? It's reported that in Ntungamo, they have had increasing cases of student indiscipline, and some of the recent cases, students at Chamate Secondary School set a dormitory on fire, leading to the death of a senior one student accused of causing their dismissal. Then it's still in 2023, students of Hillside Academy attacked their peers at Ruhanga Secondary School, injuring 14 students and destroying property. Then in June 2024, clashes between students from Ruhama Secondary School and Ruhama Central Secondary School led to police intervention, with officers shooting and injuring 4 students. Now, because of some of these incidents, some teachers in the schools in the region claim that they had to resort to corporal punishment in order to rein in the indisciplined students. What's your perspective on that, Jerome?
One, it is not right. It is not right. Simply because we are used to it doesn't make it right. But why teachers are using this method today is because it is what they have seen while this is what our education system has been subjected to over the years. So when you look at the side of punishing students through flogging, through caning, this is something that has happened over and over again in most of the Ugandan schools. In fact, when people come out and share such videos, it shouldn't surprise any Ugandan that we do have people who are supportive of these particular sorts of punishment.
Yes.
Because many of them have passed through Ugandan schools, they have experienced the same, and they kind of feel it is normal. However, if you're to look at it in the context of education and upbringing, at times such punishments go way overboard. Now, for instance, when you look at some forms of corporal punishment that are very common in schools, you look at things like caning, there's that public flogging, where a teacher comes out and punishes students for wrongdoing or for failing in a given exam by making them lie down in a school compound and beating up all the students that failed or that did not hit the pass mark. And it's something that has been very common in Ugandan schools. However, the other unfortunate bit is I've been seeing some videos trending on social media lately, and they've been more of content creators kind of mocking teachers, but making it as a joke. And some of the students have been coming out and, some of them that have been making these videos have come out to reveal that Ugandan schools are a different experience. You are caned for failure to understand, yet you've been sent there to learn. So the more you fail to learn, you're beaten, or you're being forced to learn or to
learn
pick
by force.
By force. It's like you're paying school fees so that you go and learn something. But if you fail, the teachers have the right to beat you up. So this kind of gives you an example of the kind of education we have been used to over the years. And no wonder when you look at people who are against these corporal punishments in school, or who are against this level of punishment, they come from a place of post-traumatic stress disorder, where you're having PTSD of the experience. Even today we do have some of those schools, and the alumni from those schools will tell you, we moved through those schools for 6 or 4 years, but we can tell you the level of punishments that were there, I wouldn't wish it for my child. And we have parents today who cannot take their children back to certain schools, even though they are good schools, and those parents passed through the same simply because of the nature of punishments. And on the side of how we approach these levels of punishment as parents or as teachers, it goes back to the teachers themselves. Because at times when parents take their children to schools, they give the teachers a lot of powers over their children. There are certain parents who will take a child to school and even sit down with the teacher and tell them, this is a stubborn boy, I want you to instill discipline and good behavior in them. Now,
but then as
the
a
instilling
parent,
of behavior, no, before even calling the shot for parents, we want to believe most parents don't have time for their children.
But if you
which is
don't
not
have
right.
time for your child, then who has?
Obviously, it is not right. Why? Because many parents tend to absent themselves from their duties as parents. But when you look at the level of education in Uganda today, parents, most of the teachers spend more time with their children than the parents do. Because even during holiday times, parents are working. Now, when parents tend to use the term instill discipline and good behavior in my child, what goes at the back of the mind of a teacher is that this child is stubborn, and the best way we can discipline them is to punish them. And the punishment is always caning, or maybe giving them heavy punishments of cleaning in school, or carrying heavy loads of, let's say, buckets and what have you. But in most cases, it's beating. And the beating is because our education system over the years has been subjected to this. It is after a while that we are seeing parents who have become very vocal about the treatment of their children. And the intentional parents have even gone ahead to shame schools, regardless of how big the school is. But if at all the parent does not feel happy with the treatment, they have taken their children away from these schools, because to them, the mental health of their children matters more than just the school name and what have you.
Okay, thank you, Jerome. Now, today we are addressing the state of welfare of students in Ugandan schools, students and pupils. We are looking at that, and this is against the background of a footage that went viral of teachers that were punishing a 16-year-old student for allegedly escaping from school and returning with the smell of alcohol on him. Now, the student, if indeed he had escaped, that was wrong. It was an infringement on the school rules and regulations. But then the force that was used to punish him has also sparked outrage among Ugandan parents and even student bodies. So what's your view regarding that? Please share your thoughts. The WhatsApp number is 0709 602 592. Now, Chirabo, Jerome did mention that the most rampant form of corporal punishment is the beating or the canes or the strokes. We even used to have jokes regarding this. Face Rubaga and I give you 5, face Rubaga and I give you 10, to indicate how teachers had normalized beating students, either for indiscipline or poor performance, and to mention but a few. But what other forms of punishment did you experience, and do you think are still being experienced by students in Uganda's schools?
Well, the sector of agriculture. I don't know, but the digging issue was also another problem. You're told to go and erase an anthill. That says, well, Robert, for you, I think you're used to the beating now. Remember, most of the schools by then were bigger schools, not like what we have today. where you find a school in a very small place. There is no playground, there is no garden, there is nothing like that. But I don't know, for some reason, anthills used to be common in schools. So a teacher will tell you, well, I don't want to find that anthill there. That is the punishment they have given you. And I don't know, Olive, if you've ever tried erasing a anthill or sonko. But I think sonko's days, maybe they went to these small schools. But those that had those big schools, with a lot of land, there is a garden. That was also because they made children hate actual agriculture.
Because it was a punishment.
It was a punishment. You know, there was slashing the school compound.
As a punishment.
As a punishment. That was also, we had one teacher, I remember, he was called Fred Chijambu. Now, Fred Chijambu would never beat you. And he would never send you to something I would say corporal punishment. But he would ask of very funny things. For example, he would tell you to go and bring 1 million leaves that have dropped down. And he has given you 1 hour to do that. And there was a plant, go and bring those flowers. So there were various forms, but one I remember so much was the agriculture sector of it, where we were told either you go and dig, you slash the compound, or you erase a anthill.
Now, fast forward to today, Robert. What forms of punishment, apart from beating, what forms of punishment are still, corporal punishment, are students still experiencing, both within the Kampala setting or urban setting, and those in village schools?
I think there's denial of food. Many of the teachers are using that. Denial of food. They tell, for example, not going to the DH. And they know very well this child, in some schools, it's only your meal card that can access you to eat. Now, if at the DH you're denied and you're not eating, that is some harsh punishment that they are still giving the students today.
Yes.
One of the commonest, denial of meals.
Okay.
Yes.
I also remember when we spoke vernacular, they would embarrass you, literally humiliate you for speaking your mother tongue. They would either make you wear a sack, or they would make you wear something extremely dirty. And then there was the commonest, that I remember, making you kneel. Sometimes they would make you kneel on stones or kneel under the scorching sun. Like yesterday was extremely hot, and they could tell a student, remember, we never used to have hair. They tell you to kneel under that scorching sun for close to 1 hour, sometimes more. Put your hands up. Now, looking at all these sorts of punishment, what effect do they have on the mental health of a student? Imagine kneeling for hours under the sun. Your knees are killing you, and they're saying your hands should stay up. You should not put them down, or being denied food, being beaten. Agriculture, I experienced that too, of agriculture as a punishment, go and dig, and so many more forms of punishment. What effect do they have on the mental health of a child?
It's, let's not even put it on the child now. It is the level of adults we are having in society today. So we are feeling the heat basing on the schools they are from. And there is an argument in most cases that people come out and say that if you ever sit down with someone who comes from a single-sex school, there is a way they behave.
Many are traumatized.
Many are traumatized
even
because
the
of the experiences, very much so. Because of the experiences from there. And it's always thrown in as a joke, and many of them who come from these schools do not want to hear it. But how they behave clearly shows that they went through a phase that you wouldn't wish for anyone. And I'm not throwing shade to anyone taking children there, but it is quite evident.
It's important to take all these things
and then
into
yes, and then the other effect of course, when you look at the teachers we are also having, they are an effect of what happened. They are a result, rather, of what happened. So the reason as why they are treating children today like that, it is because they saw it. So in their mind, it's the way to go.
It was normal, so
it was normal, so it has to continue.
Okay.
And it is one of the things where many, and it's one of the reasons, by the way, as to why many Ugandan students are even afraid at times to go back to school. You look at your child very anxious and a bit scared when you tell them second term is approaching. And you wonder, why isn't your child excited about going to school? Remember, this is a child who used to get excited when you're just introducing them to school in the first place. Now they don't want to go to school, especially if it's boarding school. And the other reasons behind it might be because of the poor feeding. Others will tell you the teachers are tough, the matron is tough.
Let's talk about the food, Jerem, for a moment. You have mentioned poor feeding a couple of times.
Yes.
And for most of us that went through Ugandan schools, especially boarding schools, the standard posho and beans. I don't remember eating vegetables when I was at school, in as much as they were teaching us about a balanced diet. But now let's juxtaposition that with today's parent and the things they feed their children, especially those in urban centers. The stuff they feed their children. When parents say poor feeding, what exactly do they mean? Because some of them, their children must have a sausage in the morning for breakfast. They must have some eggs because proteins are very important. They must have some vegetables. Yes, but. So, are they saying beans and posho are bad, or is it the quality? What exactly do parents mean by poor feeding?
Most parents, the poor feeding is the quality of the food, because the quality of the beans that are being served in most of the schools, because it's like the official food, if it is the right word to use.
It's like the official food,
like
really.
the official food for most of the schools. Posho and beans, it's on a few occasions where schools tend to change on the meals, and they're not even changing on the diet. They're literally changing the food type. So it's
still carbohydrates.
Yeah, carbohydrates and protein. It's beans or beef. Beans or beef, or guinea paste with sweet potatoes and some bit of rice. So there are very few schools. It's only schools that are the ones we call international schools that are running with the Cambridge and what have you curriculums. Those are schools that normally spice in, and of course the kind of
the money
they charge, or the tuition they charge, your school fees is way higher.
Even in our local schools, the rate at which most schools are at, most primary schools now, you're paying between 1 million to like 1.5, 1.7. Isn't that enough for them to feed children better?
It is enough compared to the fact that there are schools who are trying their level best even when they are paying less, and they are changing some meals along the way. But then also, Olive, besides the food, by the way, there is also a growing trend that has been there for long in Ugandan schools, where some parents today, those people normally call the woke parents, today have come out so openly to criticize schools for this, that we do have schools today that have, let's say, students and pupils that are non-Ugandans or foreign-based students that study within Ugandan schools. And many parents are saying that, why do you punish our students for having long hair, and yet you allow these ones to keep their hair? Is it an exception anywhere in Uganda's curriculum? You know, is it written somewhere? So when you look at all of this, by the way, these are other kind of things that make education so bad for anyone.
I'll tell you, I'm a parent myself. My children have been in some schools where they are students of Asian descent, and they always have their hair. And then the students that are Ugandan, the reason that is normally given is that our African hair is hard to manage. It coils, and most students are not in position or well equipped to take care of their natural hair. Okay, and because of that, they advise them to cut off the hair, because the other one is silky and easy to manage.
Do they advise? I don't think it's even advice. If I'm to remember, just having 3 inches of your hair in school, 3 inches is very small, maybe 4 inches of hair, well kept, a teacher will still come with a pair of scissors and try to
I've had my son denied entry into school because his hair is like 3 inches.
And you'll have weird hairstyles in school simply because you're having long hair.
So do you want students to have your hair cut? It's very nice, by the way.
Not having my hair cut, because I've seen schools that are open to students having these haircuts, and students are still performing accordingly. The only thing I want to understand is, how does hair affect one's level of understanding in school.
It's the
Unless,
hard
you
to
know,
manage part that the schools front.
Not so many times, because you see some schools will tell you a child cannot manage to keep their hair neat and kempt, but there are students who are so good with their hair that they will comb it, they will make sure that it's well shaped, well maintained, but schools will not be open to that if at all you are a Ugandan student.
Well, different views coming through here from Robert Chirawa and also Joram Paul Sonko. We are looking at the welfare of Ugandan students in our schools, and we are looking at the forms of punishment, but also other ways schools sometimes make students feel small, for lack of a better word. For instance, Joram here brought in the example of hair, where students of a certain descent are allowed to keep their hair, and then indigenous Ugandan students are not allowed to have their hair. Different schools, different strokes, different rules. But I would like to hear your views on the same. The WhatsApp number is displayed on your screen. It is 0709602592. Now, I have the first comment from Isingoma Stephen, who says, I'm Isingoma, Lord Uncle Stephen from Hoima City. And he goes on to say, teachers are the only entrepreneurs who torture their clients. A customer is the king for the business. I wonder how school teachers administer corporal punishment in schools to students by teachers. That's from Isingoma Stephen. And then the next comment is from Cricket Derek Gagamel from Makindi Luwafu, and he says, good morning, Olive and the two gentlemen. I'm okay with punishing, but the corporal punishments, no. If a child commits any big offense equivalent to heavy punishment, at least call a parent. We have seen many cases where teachers accidentally beat students to death, leaning on punishment. Remember, some students have their personal diseases that are only known by their parents, and their lives are hesitant to any kind of caning. Much as the scripture says, spare the rod and spoil the child, the teachers focus on educating and leave others for parents. So basically he's saying leave the punishment to the parents. Before I read the other comments, Robert, I want you to help me understand the scripture of spare the child and spare the rod and spoil the child. Does the rod literally mean get a stick and punish? Or there are actually other ways you can wield the rod and still have the effect of discipline that you're looking for?
Well, according to scripture, many will interpret that it is a stick. Because ancient wise and all the time, what has been used to punish has been the stick, or as a form of discipline has been the stick. Sometime there came in the sand. Most mothers, that umoja sand, came in as
mothers through the years.
Yes, replaced the stick or the cane. But the Bible simply talks about disciplining the child, and it doesn't talk about that corporal, that harshness, because there are alternative ways of punishment. For example, detention. When you go, and if you've watched a number of movies, traveled, had friends who have traveled, in Europe, parents still do discipline their children by issues like grounding, you know, says you're not leaving home today. Maybe you're going for a party, you had your plans, you want to go out and play, and Monica, this you even do. Maybe you deny your child something. Either you say to them, because of what you've done, you're going to watch TV. Because of what you've done, for us who have boys and they're young, no riding your bicycle, you chain it, or you put it even, somewhere they can't get to that bike, you know. If they are teenagers and maybe they have a program of something, you come up and say, because of this and this, you're not going to do this. You're staying indoors. And in so doing that, you're still wielding the rod, yes, not necessarily a stick. Yeah, giving some additional tasks. But they may not be necessarily those that are back-breaking. No, I can tell you, well, today you're going to, because you've done this, going to go with me. I know maybe the work I'm going to do is not that very friendly to you, but you're going to be helping me doing this and this. Also, maybe denying certain things of this child that they need. For example, a parent can choose, because last time I know you escaped out of school, went like the case we started with. So this time, if I've been giving you this amount of pocket money, this time I'm going to give you less.
Okay.
So you look at alternatives. So the Bible looked at alternative ways. There's what we call positive punishments. Other forms that are not that back-breaking, causing physical pain, changing the tone of speech, Olive. Just changing the tone of speech. A mother can decide and say, I'm not going to talk to you today. And that child emotionally has that panic.
That's right. Now, Robert, those are beautiful solutions, but then in your parting shots, what can school heads, teachers adopt as an alternative form of punishment? Because corporal punishments were outlawed, so how can schools discipline the students without expelling them, though expelling them is one of the solutions, but if they don't want to resort to that, how can they discipline the students and maintain harmony and discipline in school?
One, having proper counseling or counselors at school that guide these children. Speak to these children, because sometimes some children are very notorious, and even the beating doesn't stop them, because maybe they have some issue they are hassling and tussling with. When I was in school, we had a girl who lost her brother. Now, this young girl was so close, there were about 2 children to the brother, and the brother died. Now, she was always in company of boys to feel solace. Now, they would beat this girl that she's coupling, dark cornering, but the reality is she wasn't. She just had a gap. Now, if this young girl, the school had a proper counseling method, or teachers, they would have notified. I don't know how many times they were beating her, they expelled her, I mean, they suspended her, she goes home, she comes back, but the reality was she was undergoing through something psychological that needed someone to talk to her.
So she needed psychosocial support.
Second, the alternatives we've talked about, you know, denial. For example, if a child is denied games, you know, some of them are so interested, you find that hobby, that what the child likes, schools can use that as denial. The other thing can be extra tasks that are not back-breaking. I told you of a teacher called Fred Chijambu. Chijambu was a teacher in Deje Secondary School now. Chijambu would never beat you, but he would, can you imagine someone telling you, bring me 1,000 leaves that you've picked on the ground in 1 hour?
Well, thank you so much, Robert. And Joram, what's your parting remark in terms of solutions or alternative ways of instilling discipline among students?
Well, I think it goes back to the teachers, because imagine if that video was not recorded, we never know what happens in schools. So teachers need to come from a position of healing when it comes to teaching these students. At times, teachers are forced to beat these students because they are battling their own, you know, mentor-related issues, or maybe they are dealing with their own, and the only way is to get off it is to project their pain, and the next thing you hear is someone is beating up your child in ways you cannot understand. And you would even ask, why would you beat up my child to that level? So and also the alternative kind of, I think we should also look for alternative ways. Suspension, expulsions, those are very good, by the way, because it helped us in certain areas to shape the society, whereby a child, especially for those who love going to certain schools, he or she will definitely know that if at all I engage in this activity and I am found guilty, they are going to suspend me for 2 weeks.
Or they are going to expel
Or they are going to expel me from the school, and it's not a good record for you as a child or a student. And then the other thing of the other alternative that can be is trying to also create positive, you know, positive interactions with these students. At times, we are looking at students who are also facing certain things on their own. That one, it can be leading to the reason as to why they behave that way, or a child is failing to adapt in school, or maybe failing to pass exams simply because they are dealing with certain things. And the more you beat
or they
them,
even have some learning disabilities,
exactly,
like dyslexia.
and we are not getting to understand from their perspective. So we need to also create that environment where a teacher is a friend to this child.
Okay.
And in that way, you never know, we may have a stand. But I think teachers and schools need to be at the front of putting an end to this. As a school administrator or the entire school administration, there is no way you're going to over-defend a teacher for beating up students in that manner.
Well, thank you so much, Jerome, and thank you that all of you that have shared your views. Now, Albert from Barra says, teachers are not the monsters as they are being made to appear. Usually when a parent asks them to instill discipline into their students, usually they first talk to, counsel, admonish, but caning comes as a last resort. And Sharon from Nakauka says, I agree with Robert. Teachers need to understand their learners and create a relatable environment with them, because they could be battling some things like addictions or sickness. And Kira Dennis in Entebbe says, I totally condemn corporal punishment in schools, because I'll never forget my former primary one teacher, Napete David, who used to slap me on a daily basis, and I used to dodge classes. So it affected me a lot, although I am a graduate with a bachelor's now. And lastly, I think the issue of punishment by caning was instilled into our minds during colonial times, when our predecessors used to get caned when they did something wrong. And to this day, we have kept this mentality that Africans never learn unless caned. It is a problem in almost all African countries, and we need to move away from this. And the last one, Gilbert from Bundibujo, says, some children are untouchable. Parents should start creating time to mentor their children than putting the blame on teachers for ignoring their children, leading to failure in academics. Unfortunately, I can't share all your views, but thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. My parting remark is that as parents, we also need to do our job. You cannot entrust teachers to do everything, teach and also discipline. Teachers only come in where you stop. So what are you doing on your front as a parent? I would like for you to think on that. Well, Good Morning Uganda does continue. Jerome Paul is returning with the business updates.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Junko.
Yo.
Wachiko. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the Parish Model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Junko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The Parish Development Model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Maskari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
All right, now it's time for business, and good morning. Thank you very much for sticking around. We're going to start off with President Yoweri Museveni, who has asked developed countries to stop the pollution of the environment and adopt clean energy to address climate challenges. His message was presented by the Prime Minister, Right Honorable Robina Nabanja, in the United Arab Emirates in the city of Dubai. Now, this is during the World Government Summit. Nabanja was responding to questions raised during the World Government Summit on Uganda's strategy to promote sustainability and green economy initiatives amidst global environmental challenges. President Museveni emphasized that the big contributors of greenhouse gas emissions should stop and adapt to clean energy measures. Nabanja revealed that Uganda has developed strategies to avert environmental destruction through conservation of wetlands and reforestation. Nabanja also briefed world leaders that Uganda has put in place policies to enhance socio-economic transformation of the country. The Premier also witnessed the signing of a memorandum of understanding between the government of Uganda and the digital schools regarding collaboration in digital learning in Ugandan schools. Henry Okello Oriem signed on behalf of the Ugandan government as the Prime Minister. Later in the day, inspected the coffee exhibition at the World Trade Center in Dubai, where Ugandan coffee was being exhibited. Nabanja revealed that Uganda's coffee is the best, but only requires aggressive promotion and blending to capture world market. The Prime Minister was flanked by the Minister for Public Service, Muruli Mukasa, General Duties in the Office of the Prime Minister, and then Kasule Lumumba, State Minister for Environment, and then Honorable Beatrice Anyua, State Minister for Disaster Preparedness and Refugees, and then Honorable Abba Lillian and Uganda's Ambassador to the UAE, Zake Chibedi. The summit is running under the theme Shaping Future Governments and continues even today. Now, elsewhere, Uganda's public debt remains sustainable in the medium to long term, but carries a moderate risk of distress, according to the Ministry of Finance's annual debt sustainability analysis, which was released last week. The report links the moderate risk of distress to the rising borrowing costs, sluggish export growth, and a heavy debt service burden for the government. When you look at the financial year 2023-2024, the report finds that while Uganda's public debt is sustainable in the medium to long term, it faces a moderate risk to debt distress. This outlook is contingent on the implementation of sound fiscal policies, the commencement of oil production in the medium term, and the effective management of oil revenues to reduce borrowing needs. Ramadhan Gobi, the PSST revealed. Now, the report covering the period through December 2024 shows Uganda's total debt rose to $25.59 billion in the fiscal year 2023-2024, up from $23.66 billion the previous year. The report further shows that the report further shows that debt service to revenue ratio, which is a key indicator of fiscal pressure, reached 31.5% as of June 2024 and is also projected to be above 20% in the medium term. And this report further noted that the domestic interest payments are expected to exceed 20% of revenue in the current financial year, ending June 30th, surpassing fiscal responsibility limits. Now, debt to GDP is projected to peak at 53% by June 2026 before declining contingent on oil revenue inflows and fiscal reforms. Currently, the government also faces mounting repayment pressures as development partners cut budget support to government. Now, for instance, debt service consumed 31.5% of revenue in 2023-24, and the report shows that domestic interest payments alone are set to exceed 20% of revenue in 2024-2025, double the charter for fiscal responsibility at 12.5% target. The external debt service ratio is also expected to breach thresholds under the stress scenarios, particularly if export growth weakens. Now, the report also warns that Uganda has limited fiscal space to absorb shocks such as delays in oil production or global rate hikes. But also in the long run, on the external side, the focus will now continue to be on the concessional loans, which offer lower interest rates and longer repayment periods, but again, looking into other measures for domestic revenue mobilization. And that puts us to the end of our business updates this morning. We end it up, though, with the Forex updates, courtesy of the Central Bank, to see how the Ugandan shilling has been faring on the exchange. On Wednesday, the US dollar was buying at 3,674.50, while selling at 3,684.50. By midday, there was a slight change by points. It was then buying at 0.27, while selling also slightly below 0.27. Now, the US dollar then closed buying at 3,673.95, while selling with 3,683.95. The Great Britain pound was buying at 4,573.33, while selling at 4,585.78. The euro was buying at 3,808.41, while selling at 3,818.78. The Kenyan shilling was buying at 28.46, while selling at 28.54. The Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.41, while selling at 1.41 Ugandan shillings. The South African rand was buying at 198.89, while selling at 199.43 Ugandan shillings. Well, on Saturday on UBC TV, 8:30 p.m. is the business roundup. We give you a wrap-up of top business trending stories from within and out of the country. So do make a date with us. But for now, the business updates here on Good Morning Uganda do come to an end till Monday next week. Stick around. Good Morning Uganda agenda returns.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
International Women's Day is celebrated annually on 8th March. It is a time to reflect on progress made, to call for change and to celebrate acts of courage and determination play by women. On Saturday, 8th March, Uganda will join the rest of the world to commemorate International Women's Day. The national celebrations will be held in Chankwanzi district under the theme Accelerate Action for Gender Equality. The President of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, will be the chief guest. Join us for the live broadcast to witness outstanding women receive medals in recognition of their achievements and contributions to the country. Happy Women's Day.
It's our mission to secure your money.
Protecting your money is as important as earning it. It is for this reason that the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda, DPF, was established by the Government of Uganda to provide deposit protection to customers of regulated financial institutions. In the unlikely event that your commercial bank, credit institution or microfinance deposit-taking institution fails, the DPF will pay you up to 10 million Uganda shillings. Keep your personal information such as national identification number, mobile phone or an alternative bank account updated with your banker. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, contact DPF at Aha Towers, Plot 7 Lodell Road, Kampala. Call 0312-206-400 or visit our website at www.dpf.or.ug.
Pick of the day on UBC.
He expected me to die like within the first 2 years. Out of the blue, the child will get pains, especially in the wrists. And this happens commonly when children are starting to walk.
Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't know.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Coming soon on UBC.
Are you ready to take your fitness journey to the next level? Join the Sweat Squad by Sion. Coming soon to UBC TV. With expert guidance, cutting-edge workouts, and a supportive community. You'll be unstoppable.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the Parish Development Model, PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The Parish Development Model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Maskari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
This PDM is to get all of you out of poverty. That's why we said 100 million per parish per year.
The Parish Development Model is designed to eradicate poverty by providing the support necessary for financial independence.
We have seen how 1 million, how much 1 million can do. The whole of Uganda is very rich. So what you call poverty is actually ignorance. You need everybody to come up.
Let us all take advantage of the conducive prevailing atmosphere of political stability, peace and security to ensure that all our people come out of poverty.
And I've told the banks to stop deducting from the 1 million. You must get the 1 million full. The government is the one which will pay the bank charges.
Now the number of stools in this Matoke enterprise are 1,000. They are on 1 acre. and we harvest 17 bunches every day. The money that we get from this matoke, after selling each bunch at 15,000 shillings, for the whole year, we get 91.9 million shillings. So I want to encourage all the people of Teso also to change the mindset and adopt to new crops which were not traditionally grown here.
We emphasize two words, wealth and jobs. This PDM is to get all of you out of poverty.
This message is brought to you by the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, welcome back. It is Good Morning Uganda, and I am Olive Monica Najuma. Now, on the 16th of February 2025, we will be commemorating 48 years of Janani Luwum, the fallen Archbishop of the Church of Uganda. 48th commemoration of the Janani Luwum Day. And today we are delving into a conversation regarding the same. Now, Janani Luwum was a spiritual leader who served as the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda from 1974 up until his tragic death in 1977 on the 16th of February 1977. And at the time, if you remember your history, Uganda was going through political turmoil, and there was a lot of death and persecution of the people that spoke against the government of the time. Unfortunately, one of our spiritual leaders is the one that lost his life due to his stance against the government and how people were being treated at the time. Now, as we mark the 48th Janani Luwum Day, we ask, what does this legacy mean for Uganda today, and how can we, as the nation, uphold the values that he stood for, the values of truth, justice, integrity that he stood for? That's a question most of us should ponder on, especially now that we are also going into a political, we are already in a year preceding a very pivotal moment of our country, which is the general elections. As religious leaders, as the faithfuls, where do we stand when it comes to justice, when it comes to truth, the values that the fallen leader, the fallen spiritual leader upheld, and the values, so it begs for the question, where do we stand as a people? And as our leaders are vying for offices, where do they stand when it comes to truth, justice? So big men leave big legacies, and here he left a legacy 48 years later that we are still looking at admiringly, and also asking ourselves questions that we need to actually provide answers to. Now, to have this conversation, I will be speaking to Mr. Sadiq Adams, who is the communications officer at the Archbishop's office, that is at the Church of Uganda. Also, I will be speaking to Reverend Canon Aaron Mwesije, who is the Director for Ethics and Religious Affairs at the Directorate for Ethics and Integrity at the Office of the President. You are welcome, Reverend. You are well?
Thank you so much. I'm well. I'm doing very well and vibrant.
That's amazing. Mr. Sadiq, you are welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning, Uganda, and thank you, UBC, and also thank you for always waking up every day early morning to come and inform us. We thank you.
Thank you so much for appreciating. Now, getting into our conversation, I will start with you, Reverend. Briefly introduce Janani Luwum to us. Help us understand his role as a bishop and also his legacy.
Thank you. Good morning, all of you Ugandans. Good morning, fellow believers. Good morning, UBC, those who watch this program. Saint Janani Luwum, as we call him now, because he was made a saint in 1998 by the Church of England at a very big ceremony that the Queen of England attended. And his statue was erected in Westminster Bay in Canterbury. Saint Janani Luwum was born in 1924 in a humble family in Muchuni, where we buried him. He's a man who grew up in a very humble background, very humble. Even his home was very humble, and he left it humble. But of course, through that humility, God made a very great man and made a hero out of him. In the year 1948, he accepted Christ as his personal Savior and Lord. And that was a pivotal point in his life. That is actually the time when he decided to serve the Lord and to join ministry, both as a teacher but also as a theologian, without wasting time, because God's levels are always marching at all times. In 1966, the first African Archbishop, by then Archbishop Erika Sabiti, made him his provincial secretary. And in 1969, in January, he was consecrated and enthroned as a bishop of northern Uganda. So you can see how God was elevating him in quick succession. In 1974, Archbishop was installed as the second African Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and Boga Zaire, at a very big ceremony in Mirembe. Now, 3 years after that, just a short period, he was murdered by the dictator Idi Amin in cold blood with other 2 ministers. Now, there is a very important point why we celebrate this man, humble as he was, but became a great man. We are celebrating a hero. And as you know, that heroes die because of the cause. He's a martyr who dies for his faith. He's a hero. Heroes die once. He's a man who had an unwavering courage. Very important, actually, that you should know, because if you look at the situation that we have in now with the church leadership at hand, I don't think there would be very few. I'm not saying that none would do it, but there would be few counted on fingertips who would face the situation. Great men like to watch catastrophe at the terrace. They actually go aside and watch it happen, people being killed. But this is a man his wife actually, Mary, advised her to leave Uganda and run away like other bishops did. Bishop Festo Chivenyere left Uganda because of the dictatorial regime. He said, I cannot leave my ship. I have to stay here, and if I'm to die, I will die here, as of course finally he died. So this is a man who faced the situation. He faced Idi Amin. He faced death. Now, he did not actually plan to become a martyr himself. No. He did not even plan to die. But I think the hand of God was there between me and you, because it is at the time when he died that galvanized the entire international and national community in Uganda. They both joined hands to overthrow the dictatorial regime of Idi Amin. Now you imagine, therefore, if it was not the death of Janani Luwum, you never know, Idi Amin would be there even up to now. Or he would leave power when he had killed as many people, because his regime was characterized with a lot of persecution, both political and religious, as you saw it. So the death of this martyr helped to galvanize the entire international and national effort to be able to defeat the dictator. So you see, God had a hand in it. Yeah, to me, that's how I look at it from a believer's perspective. And this is a man whom we are celebrating, but who defended the truth at all times, something that we can learn from him. Very important, because it's not a matter of celebrating him. Because you know that honesty today is a requirement that is in short supply, even religious leaders. It's like the commodities during Idi Amin, sugar and salt, were in short supply. Honesty, integrity are in short supply. But this is a man who lived with integrity to the fullness, and therefore it's very, very crucial for us as a country, not as a church of which he served, to remember him.
Okay, that's very interesting. I like the part where the Reverend is saying honesty is in short supply. And I think that comes from somewhere, because we have seen many things happen in our country, and the question usually that lingers is, where are the religious leaders? Why are they quiet? Why aren't they saying something? So for us to remember a man that took a stance knowing that his life was at risk, but he did it anyway, that is a man of substance. That is the kind of leader that many people want to look up to. And like the Reverend here said, those men are in short supply. And of course he did refer that to the short supply of sugar and salt at the time. But Reverend, still with you, please, for those that do not know their history very well, please take us through the circumstances that surrounded the arrest and the eventual murder of the Archbishop in 1977.
First of all, when Amin took over power in 1971, he actually called a meeting for all Anglican bishops, and that meeting took place in Kawari, 1971. You can imagine the reason why he called them. He wanted actually to present a presidential decree, and it was a policy, a religious policy, but out of a presidential decree. You know, policies are developed by asking, you have to consult people for you to come up with a policy. But Amin he was presenting the do's and don'ts, what religious leaders should do and what they should not do. And for some of them who didn't understand, they thought he was actually trying to collaborate with them to promote the common good. But in a way, he wanted to put them under his arm so that he can be able to promote his interests. So imagine him meeting the bishops of the Christian church, yet he was a Muslim, but he put them together and he wanted to present his cause. Now, later on, as you can see, that was 1971. In 1970, by that time, that was Archbishop Erika Sabiti when he met them as the Archbishop. And in 1974, the Archbishop Janani Luwum is installed as the second African Archbishop of Uganda. But he has, of course, witnessed what Amin was doing. And many times when he became the Archbishop and took that position, he used it to become the voice of the voiceless. You see, and of course, as you know, the church is the custodian of faith and human values. He was able to point out wrongs and rights in society. And Amin was looking at him. He was not, he was actually following his speeches. He was pointing out where wrongs are. And the work of a church leader is to point out wrongs and rights. You see, and without compromising your position, because today there's a lot of compromise. Actually, people compromise their leadership position for fear of being misunderstood or even for fear of death. But this man, he actually pointed out wrongs and rights passionately, And that is why Amin had to, and later on, of course, there was, Amin had a lot of security that surrounded him, that was following the Archbishop, whatever he spoke, whatever he was engaged in, but his speech was not to overthrow Idi Amin. And I want to tell you, my sister, of late, when I was reading about Idi Amin, some people asked questions that they heard that St. Janani Luwum had guns in his home, had guns in. So I said, where is the evidence? We need to see the evidence. We've read a lot about how he was arrested and how he was killed, but we've not seen the guns in his home or in his. So those are fabricated stories to justify Idi Amin's killings. Okay. But in a nutshell, what I can say is that the Archbishop was able to point out wrongs and rights. And Idi Amin, as a person who was not educated a lot, who would not allow criticism, who would not allow to be critiqued, now he's criticized by a religious leader, not even a political leader. And therefore, the fear was that if I remain with this leader, who is commanding a lot of a bigger constituency, huge, by the way, bigger than even the Islamic faith.
That's right.
He may actually use the same constituency to overthrow my regime. And that is actually even where the issue of guns come in, which was not true. So I cannot dwell in how he was captured, how he was killed. There is a film recently which has been produced, by the way, UBC, you need to watch it, depicting the way he was arrested with the two ministers, the way he was killed to the last moment, the way even his body was taken to Muchwini first. They had to bypass Muchwini and went further to Sudan, and then came back. They were lost, those who had his body. So, in fact, they didn't go straight to Muchwini where we are going to celebrate the event. They bypassed, they didn't know, and then later on, they relocated the place. But what I'm saying, there is a film that people need to watch.
Is it a clear depiction of the events
very,
that
very,
occurred
very,
in his last days?
Very. And there are people actually, there's a pastor who lived with Archbishop Janani Luwum, I think he's an old man who has the entire story, even how he was taken from his home in Mirembe, taken to Nakasero State Research Bureau, and then later on interrogated, and then after that they killed him, and of course they lied that it was an accident. You know the story that they tell us, that it was a motor accident that claimed his life, but that was fabricated. I think they murdered him. After that they put him in a car. But that is the far. What is important that we should learn as a Ugandans, and we should know, is that this is something that has not been done of late. For your own information, he was the first Archbishop to be murdered in office. First Archbishop, after Kuranma in 1556. Now I want you to imagine the difference. In 1556, Kuranma was murdered now to 1974. So this is in Africa, because Kuranma was in England. In Africa, he was the first Archbishop to be murdered in office. So, but why? Because he was speaking the truth. He was telling Amin, he faced him and told him that, no, this is wrong. This should not be done the way you are doing it. We should actually change. And I think that is what we lack now as religious leaders. Because even when there is a constitutional amendment or that does not protect the interests of the people, some people speak out because they don't want to engage in politics. Yet when you do it, you are protecting the interests of the people that you serve as a leader.
All right. Well, we are looking at the commemoration of the 48th Janani Luwum Day. Janani Luwum was an archbishop of the Church of Uganda who was murdered in 1977 at the orders of the then President Idi Amin Dada. The story has been told to us by Reverend Canon Aaron Mwesije, who is the Director for Ethics, Religious Affairs at the Directorate for Ethics and Integrity Office of the President. Now, Reverend, one would wonder at the time, but also even today, how did the death of the Archbishop in 1977 impact Uganda and the church at large?
Thank you. As I said, moderator, I said that the death of Archbishop Janani Luwum galvanized the entire national and international spectrum for them to put their heads together and lay strategies to remove the dictator. But as far as the Church of Uganda is concerned,
yes,
of which question you are saying, first of all, that the blood of a martyr, I think that was the Turion, he said that the blood of the martyr is the seed of the church, which means that when a martyr dies, the church multiplies. Now, if you look at the Church of Uganda by now and compare it with the Church of Uganda in 1977 when he died, there's a big difference. Huge. So there is an impact, to use your word, a lot. His death contributed to a huge, immeasurable impact in terms of growth as far as the church is concerned, in terms of development. And by the way, he's a man, if you read his literature and follow him very well, he's a man who promoted self-reliance. Self-reliance. He wanted, like President Museveni wants to improve the household income of Ugandans through parish development model. Archbishop Janani Luwum promoted and believed in self. He didn't want dependence. You know, the church was depending a lot from the Western world on donations. So he's the man. By the way, that is even why the Church of Uganda named that church house. It named it after him. So it was not accidental. He was a developmental bishop or archbishop. So the Church of Uganda actually protected his legacy, because in 3 years he was able to put down in black and white his vision, but which vision never died. And to me, the definition of a vision is the art of seeing the invisible. Now, something that was not there, like Church of Uganda being self-reliant and self-accountable. As I talk with you, Church of Uganda is doing a great work. Through many dioceses, they have come up with so many projects to support the work of God, to defend the interests of people, to promote their well-being. But that originated from this leadership of Janani Luwum. In 3 years, he was able to put his vision across, and whenever he chaired the House of Bishops, the bishops by then would actually buy his idea. Because so what we can learn is that his death increased the numbers, his death increased the infrastructure of the Church of Uganda. By that time, I think we had about 6 to 10 dioceses. Yeah, Northern Uganda and Kolembale. Now we have about 40, isn't it? Yes. We have about 40 dioceses now, imagine. And so you can imagine, we didn't, in other words, the Church of Uganda did not go back. His death sparked off
the growth
of the church.
All right. Well, if you're just joining us, we are commemorating the 48th day of Janani Luwum, or we are looking at the commemoration of the 48th Janani Luwum Day. Janani Luwum is a former Archbishop of the Church of Uganda who was murdered at the hands or the orders of Idi Amin Dada, the former president that was overthrown in 1979. Now, the celebration will be on the 16th of February 2025, but we are having a conversation today because that day is very pivotal in the history of the church, but also in the history of Uganda as a country. And I am speaking to Reverend Canon Aaron Mwesije, who is the Director for Ethics and Religious Affairs at the Directorate for Ethics and Integrity Office of the President. But I'm also speaking to Mr. Sadiq Adams, who is the Communications Officer, Archbishop's Office at the Church of Uganda. Mr. Sadiq, one would wonder what the Janani Luwum Day signifies for Uganda as a country.
As a country, we celebrate a matter.
Yes.
And we remember the good things he began. As a church, we celebrate him because his major focus, like Canon Aaron said, was on three things. One, it was self-reliance. For the church to be self-sustainable, to ensure that we have projects that help the church to survive or literally work on their own, survive on their own, so that the ministers, the Christians, they survive independently from donor support.
Yes.
And that's why he led that vision for church house. But also he focused on the church being self-propagating, training of clergy. During his time, you realize there was an increased number of clergy who were trained, and that was to ensure that, because you could find before we had the more missionary priests here and missionary bishops in Karamoja and others. But now, during his time, he ensured the church was able to train its own leaders, its own clergy, its own ministers as a church, to ensure that our clergy, our leaders in the church, both lay and ordained, they had the capacity to govern the church. Yeah. How about if the missionary church, missionary society pulled out completely? The church, was it able to govern itself? And that is what he focused on.
Okay.
But also, we remember him for speaking truth to power constantly, like Canon said, honesty is in scarcity. But then, what we are trying to do as a church is to continue to speak truth to power. We are doing that. Only that sometimes the approaches, they differ.
That's true.
The mode of communication to the president at that time and the mode of communication to the president now
is
different.
May be different.
What's the difference?
Because now, for us, we prefer more of dialogue.
Yes.
We prefer dialogue. For example, if there is a problem, if there are human rights violation, we don't expect our clergy to go on the streets to riot. We don't expect them to demonstrate, to go on the parapet and castigate the president. First, choose the option of dialogue. And we have tried as much as we can, even the president, to meet him, to tell him that, look, Mr. President, here there is a problem. And he has listened, and there has been change.
Okay.
But that approach of dialogue may not be appreciated by quite a number of people. But
They might feel that the church is taking a back seat.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. But we cherish dialogue in whatever we do, and that is what we learned from Archbishop.
How was he doing it? Was he doing dialogue? Was he castigating the president openly? How was he doing it? Vis-a-vis how the current clergy are doing it.
I think the best way to describe Archbishop Janani Luwum, he was tough and tender. Tough
And tender.
And tender.
Tender heart and tough mind.
Just like the personality of Jesus.
Yes, because for him, he tried to use the tenderness to talk to the president, Idi Amin at that time.
Yes.
He tried. He failed. And that be tough. And the toughness maybe could have been the cause of the matter. But he did not
call for murder. He didn't call for murder.
Yeah. His toughness is what made him to speak directly to the authority. And that could have been the reason why Idi Amin was pissed off. So these people are now speaking directly against me. But it was to ensure that human rights are upheld, there is justice, there is freedom of worship,
there is peace,
and there is freedom of speech. And we credit Archbishop Janani Luwum for that as a church.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sadiq. Now, still with you, let's come back to today and the events that will take place next week. How is Uganda officially commemorating this 48th Janani Luwum Day?
First of all, we have a number of activities lined up, but most profoundly, this 48th commemoration is distinctively special.
Why?
Because for the first time we are having the biggest number of pilgrims, foot pilgrims, walking on foot. We had over 60 pilgrims. Now they have risen to over 100. On Sunday, it's when they began. Some came from Kitgum on a truck to Guru, and others from Guru and other places, and they converged in Guru so they could begin their foot pilgrimage to Muchwini.
Where is Muchwini?
Muchwini is in Kitgum.
Kitgum district.
Yes, that is where.
That's between southern Sudan and Uganda.
Okay.
Yes. So the foot pilgrims were flagged off on Sunday by Bishop Godfrey Luwum of the Diocese of Northern Uganda. On Sunday, they slept in Guru. Then on Monday, they trekked up to Chwero. They slept there. On Tuesday, they trekked up to Atanga. From Atanga, yesterday, Wednesday, they walked up to Acholi Bull and they slept there. So today they are walking from Acholi Bull
to Kitgum,
and we expect them by evening time to have arrived in Kitgum town parish. From Kitgum town parish tomorrow, they will walk now to the venue, to Wigweng in Muchwini, and you could say they have moved slowly. But as they move, they go in there praying. They stop, they pray, they praise, they preach. When they reach in communities, they first stop, pray for the people, they preach to them, and proceed. It is a journey of faith.
Okay.
All those activities, they are to raise awareness, first of all, to people about Janani Luwum, but also to walk in faith as they pray. Then we have the service on Sunday, but before that, on Saturday, we are having youth competitions. There is a football gala. We had competitions from archdeaconry level, and we are going to have a final competition among the youth in Kitgum. And the winner from that will take a trophy. Do you know how good it is to say to win a trophy for Janani Luwum celebrations? It is very, very historical. We are expecting to have our service on Sunday. It is a public holiday. I hope you will have some rest on that day. So we are expecting to begin our service at 9
She can't rest. She will also be she will be attending the function.
They are onward Christian soldiers at work.
Yes.
So our service will begin at 9.
Yes.
And the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, the Most Reverend Dr. Stephen Samuel Kazimba Mugalu, is our main celebrant, assisted by several other bishops. We have had confirmations from over 32 bishops of the Church of Uganda, but also we have invited our brothers and sisters from other faiths. They will be with us. Then the preacher for the day is the Right Reverend Associate Professor Fred Sheldon Mwesigwa. He's the Bishop of Ankole Diocese, but also the Dean of the province. The Dean is the most senior bishop of the province of the Church of Uganda.
Okay.
And as Canon will tell you, our chief guest is His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, who is not only a Christian, but our chief supporter, especially when it comes to the freedom of worship.
Okay. Now, Mr. Adams, before I come back to the canon, tell us about the theme for this year's celebration.
This year's celebrations, we are using the theme for the Church of Uganda, which we are using for the entire year, imitating God's goodness by doing good, which is from Galatians chapter 6, verse 9.
Imitating God's goodness?
Imitating God's goodness by doing good. It's a call, because God was doing good, Jesus was doing good, and the only way we can do good is to imitate what God was doing. His goodness, God is good all the time, like we say.
And we are called to be in His likeness.
Absolutely, we are called to imitate His goodness by doing good to our neighbors, to our relatives, to everyone around us.
Wow, great. Well, the celebrations will be happening on Sunday. Now, it depends on how you interpret the day, the calendar. Some people call Sunday next week, others call Sunday this week. But whatever it is the 16th of February 2025, which happens to be this Sunday. We will be commemorating the 48th Janani Luwum Day, the fallen, I like to call him a fallen angel, but the fallen man of God that took a stance against the government of the time, and because of this lost his life. But the canon here did say that him losing his life actually sparked growth of the church in Uganda to now over 40 dioceses. That is quite an impact. And there is an old adage that says that good men never die, they rest. And the Archbishop rested, and in his rest we are still seeing his impact over the years. And of course we have the church house in Uganda, a pivotal key structure to remember the man. Now, as we close, Canon, tell us from a church's perspective, how does Archbishop Luwum's legacy influence Christian leadership and advocacy today? In just a few seconds.
Just so much. First of all, I want to say that, as Sadiq has said, this year's theme is very, very fundamental and very significant, different from others. Imitating God's goodness by doing good. I think as a country, first of all, Archbishop Luwum promoted unity. Unity for purpose, not necessarily unity in diversity, but unity for purpose. We should, as a church, therefore, imitate that, because I believe unity for purpose is actually doing the right thing in this country. As you know, this country called Uganda, as much as we are a Christian country or a religious country, because I think as Professor Miti said, he said that Africans are notoriously religious.
That's right.
But I think Ugandans are also notoriously religious.
That's very
Because
true.
I don't think there is any Ugandan who is an atheist. All of them believe.
We have some of them,
And
but
I don't think so. But
they are a drop
that
in the ocean.
That one, they can exist in the Western world, but not in Uganda. Because they may actually not be Christians or Muslims, but they are worshipping other means. So an atheist is someone who doesn't believe in God, in any supernatural power.
Okay.
Now, but having said that, Uganda being a country that is having so many tribes, you see, unity of purpose is what I'm on as far as Janani is concerned. A group of tribes, I think it was Professor Mamdani who said that Uganda is not the nation, it's a group of tribes forced to live together. You can't believe it. Now, in such a circumstances, The voice of St. John and Luwum, who promoted unity of purpose, is still speaking to us. Unity of purpose. Because that's when we can combine and become a nation, have one voice, so that we are not east, west, north. We are not Langi and Acholi and Banyankwe, but we are Ugandans, so that you face the situation as Ugandans. I think that's something that we lack. The church, therefore, should imitate and emulate this great man's vision, so that we can be able to promote a country that is united, that is able to defeat necessity together as Ugandans, not to defeat necessity as Baganda or Wanyankole or Acholi people. Something that I want to bring to light. So therefore, the theme, as I said, the theme of this year is very special. Ugandans imitating God's goodness by doing the right thing is a timely message that we need to do the right thing in church. And to me, there are two institutions that can help change the mindset, but also the attitude of people in this country. The first one is the church. The second one is the media, where you work. The media is meant to inform, but information must be positive, not negative, not provocative. The church's work is to transform people's lives, people's mindset. Now, what we lack now, for instance, in defeating corruption, which is a monster in our lives, we need the church, because the work of the church is transformation. And unless you are transformed, you cannot actually be able to defeat corruption. You can't be able to promote socio-economic transformation, even through parish development model. So to me, I think as Frederick Douglass said, that it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Government of Uganda has been very busy engaged in repairing broken men.
Now we need to go back.
We need to go back, and the only institution, and I think Sadiq would agree with me, that can be able to build strong children at family level is the church. You start with the family, you go to, you empower the children, and then you empower the parents, and then the parents empower the children. By the time the child goes to school, goes to university, completes to become an MP or a cabinet member, you shun corruption. So for us to imitate good, we must put strategies in place. And I think one of the biggest institutions that we have, that God gave us under the sun on planet Earth, is the church, as a custodian of values and a custodian of faith. Therefore, my plea to the entire Ugandans, including my fellow church leaders, is that we should imitate God's goodness, we should do the right thing, we should make proper accountability of finances, proper accountability of what we do. We should be time conscious. We should actually promote spiritual capital.
Well, thank you so much, Reverend. Now, Mr. Adams, as we mark 48 years since his death, what final message do you have to Ugandans regarding the legacy of the fallen Archbishop Janani Luwum?
Well, my call to Ugandans, especially our leaders, is to continue being advocates of justice and human rights, but in a more of dialogue manner, to champion dialogue, but also to continue learning the aspects of leadership skills from Archbishop Janani Luwum, and also thinking for the institution you lead more than thinking for yourself.
Okay, that's
and also
very important.
Upholding family values, which is so much cherished.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Sadiq Adams. Now, Mutatina Jordan from Barara says, thank you to the man of God for the good explanation and teaching about the legacy of Archbishop Janani Luwum. And I would like to say thank you, Reverend, for telling us more about a man of pivotal importance in the history of the church and in the history of Uganda as a nation. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and Mr. Adams, thank you so much for coming through, and I pray that everything goes well on Sunday.
We invite you.
Yes,
you need to
we
be
invite all Ugandans and people all over the world.
UBC has to be there, isn't it?
Yes,
It has
yes,
already
UBC
confirmed.
has to be there.
You have no option.
No option.
The service
not
will
at
be live on UBC TV. I
Yes.
encourage our viewers to watch on UBC TV and all the sister channels, Star TV and others, to follow the service, but also to come and attend with us. But let me say this finally.
Okay.
I want to, on behalf of the Church of Uganda, to extend our appreciation to the government of Uganda through the Directorate of Ethics and Integrity. They have been very supportive to the church, both in commemoration of Janani Luwum, but also helping us in instilling Christian values, where we have faced challenges with communities, especially vulgarizing ministry. They have been there to support us. And they have ensured that we are partners in ensuring upholding of Christian values and making the family values stronger. But also, I also want to thank other agencies, the Uganda Media Center, that has been very supportive to ensure that we give this event enough publicity it requires. And we are still doing so, partnering together. And of course, to all Ugandans who pray for us, who pray for the church. You know, the ministers, Canon Aaron Mwesije, is like a breakdown. So you always, whenever we have a challenge, we run to the clergy. But what happens when he breaks down? So we thank you for always praying for our clergy, praying for our bishops, praying for all our leaders and for our Christians. And on Sunday, the 16th of February, we are waiting to see you to celebrate together Archbishop Janani Luwum Day, as we imitate God's goodness by doing good.
UBC should be given actually a big thank you for covering us and for allowing programs, especially when there are programs of national importance. UBC hosts us, and I think we are not taking you for granted.
No, no,
you.
you're not. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you, gentlemen, for coming through. The events of the commemoration of the 48th Janani Luwum Day will be live here on Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. So if you can't make it to Muchini, you can watch everything as it unfolds in real time here at Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. I've been speaking to Mr. Sadiq Adams, who is the communications officer, the Archbishop's office that is at the Church of Uganda. And I have also been speaking to Reverend Canon Aaron Mwesije, who is the Director for Ethics and Religious Affairs at the Directorate of Ethics and Integrity at the President's Office here in Uganda. Thank you for being a part of Good Morning Uganda, and the show continues because we still have sports coming up. I see Ruben here ready to tell you what happens and what happened in the world of news. Stick around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
International Women's Day is celebrated annually on 8th March. It is a time to reflect on progress made, to call for change and to celebrate acts of courage and determination play by women. On Saturday, 8th March, Uganda will join the rest of the world to commemorate International Women's Day. The national celebrations will be held in Chankwanzi district under the theme Accelerate Action for Gender Equality. The President of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, will be the chief guest. Join us for the live broadcast to witness outstanding women receive medals in recognition of their achievements and contributions to the country. Happy Women's Day.
It's our mission to secure your money.
Protecting your money is as important as earning it. It is for this reason that the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda, DPF, was established by the government of Uganda to provide deposit protection to customers of regulated financial institutions. In the unlikely event that your commercial bank, credit institution or microfinance deposit-taking institution fails, the DPF will pay you up to 10 million Uganda shillings. Keep your personal information such as national identification number, mobile phone or an alternative bank account updated with your banker. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, contact DPF at Aha Towers, Plot 7 Lodell Road, Kampala. Call 0312-206-400 or visit our website at www.dpf.or.ug.
Good morning, my name is Ruben Pima, and today is actually International Radio Day or National Radio Day, one of the two. I want also to use this chance to talk about a few of my time. There are those who are gone and there are those who are still around. I mean, for me, radio will never be the same without the late Alex Sindaula, presenters like DJ Ronnie, Ronald Sempanji. We had Alan de Cantaklas, then the Shadow. Shadow now works, I think, at Sanyo. My colleagues Muji, Belinda, Ben Mwine. Guys, radio made radio what it is today. And for those who have retired, we appreciate it. Those who are seeing us in service, let's make radio what it has to be. And for Radio Uganda, and